Thanks a lot. Okay, yeah, so I'm very glad to be part of this, join the conference now, I think in Hong Kong already during the afternoon. Here it's in Germany, it's still morning time. Yeah, welcome to my keynote workshop about designing, implementing, and evaluating positive technological interventions. So I will give you some insights in our research, hopefully inspiring ideas for the conception and design of such technologies. And also, Alex just mentioned, I hope for your active participation, because I think that is really how you can profit from it the most if you directly transfer these ideas to your personal areas of relevance. So I also hope for your ideas and feedback, so that really becomes an interactive workshop. And yeah, if some more of you would like to switch on the camera, that would be a first good step. And I'm glad that I also can see the audience of the on-site participants in Hong Kong. Yeah, so a quick outlook on the topics for the next minutes. I will say a few words about the area in focus for our workshop, which is self-improvement technologies, so technologies that support us in reaching personal goals. How we might conceptualize such technologies with the help of psychology, how we might consider bitter and sweet components of change, which is also one of the core topics of the lecture right after this workshop. And then, yeah, how we might use this perspective to envision strategies for positive change. And based on these, also design approaches and concrete realizations through technology. And yeah, within all those parts, I will also pose some questions to you so that you can directly experience the approaches. And I hope that you will share your thoughts and ideas to make this more interactive and entertaining for all of us. Yeah, so the topic of self-improvement technologies is based on the general fact that people strive for improvement in many areas. They have different personal goals, like, for example, healthier nutrition, more sports, living mindfulness in everyday life, and much more. So all these would be personal steps towards the ideal self and self-improvement, as also mentioned in many theories of humanistic psychology. And so this is already the first question to you. So what spontaneously comes to your mind when you think about your life? So this could be just daily habits you would like to improve, like tidying up each day, or bigger goals, learning a language, eating more healthy, being less stressed. So whatever is meaningful to you. Maybe just take a few moments to think about this. So, and I would be very glad if just spontaneously one or two of you could share their personal goal. Just I don't have a good overview of all the participants, so for me it would be okay if you just unmute and start talking, and we will see what gets through. Or you could also use the chat, but it's a bit difficult for me to keep track of this. Anybody who wants to share a personal goal?
I have typed it in the chat box, learning new language.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Which language? Is there a specific one?
Danish.
Oh, wow. Hard goal. Great. Anybody else who would like to share?
Exercise.
Someone say more exercise.
Yeah. Exercise, so sports, I guess, more physical activity. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lost some weight, someone say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Also in the health direction, a goal, I would say. Okay, great. So we also have a big diversity of goals. Okay, so just keep this in mind. Ilka, you also wanted to share a goal?
Yeah, I can. For me, it would be to have more time for myself. So to relax, be more mindful, and counteract stress, for example.
Okay, yeah, also very important goal related to mental and physical health, I would say. Yeah, so thanks a lot. Just keep this in mind, because we will see how we might develop strategies towards this goal. Okay, so we have various goals, and we already have technologies that tries to support us in positive behavior or behavior change. So you see some examples like fitness wrists that count our steps, a toothbrush, which gives us feedback on our brushing behavior with a smiley, apps that support people in dealing with depression or other mental health issues. Yeah, but how could we know whether these are good solutions? So, for example, is a light which categorizes food as good green or bad red the best support for healthy nutrition? So what is important to consider? So more generally, how can we successfully design and implement such positive technological interventions, or how could we evaluate and foresee their potential in beforehand? And I will just introduce some different starting points that might be helpful to consider. So before, again, the next interactive part, this is also something you can do for yourself. We don't need to discuss this in a group. Just think of your personal goal you just mentioned, and then think a bit more concrete about which part of the goal could be in focus or could be rewarded or somehow supported later through a product. So for example, if you say you want to learn a language, what could be progress in this goal, or like Ilka says, feeling less stressed, which could be indicators of her goal. So this would be good to have this in mind. Okay, I think for some goals, it's very straightforward, relatively simple. So for example, for the toothbrush, it could be the brushing time, or more intelligent toothbrushes could realize the pressure, whether this is good or whether you have cleaned all areas. But for other goals, it might be more complex. So it is good already now to think about what could be indicators of moving towards a goal. Okay, so if we want to change behavior, I want to reach a goal, what can we do to make this actually happen? And psychology has at least some starting points, some ingredients that could be helpful. So one central principle is not only define a general intention, like here, more physical activity, but also the concrete when, where, and how, which is called implementation intentions. So when I come home from work, I will take the bikie directly when entering the flat and go for a small bike ride. This would be a concrete implementation intention. And if we have something like this, it's much more likely that this will actually happen than if there's just an abstract goal. But even if we have this clear and concrete intention, there's still suspense. Because we have like two different forces in us. There's a reflective system, which represents long-term goals, like doing more sports. But this is often in a fight with the impulsive system, which, for example, wants a beer first after work. Totally wrong time for sports. And so both systems want action control. And the question is, which one will win in the critical moment? And I can improve the chances for the reflective system by everything that breaks the direct access of the impulsive system. So I could, foresee this and prepare myself, maybe like having no more beer in the fridge. So that would urge me to pause for a moment. And introduce a reflective loop that asks again, what do I really want? Is this really the way I want to follow? And a first experiment which embodies this knowledge from psychology is a concept key moment, which I developed together with some colleagues from design. So Matthias Laschke was the first author and inventor of key moment. So key moment is basically a key rack. And this is how it works. We have two keys positioned on it, the bike key and the car key. And if I take the bike key, everything is great. Nothing special happens. But if I take the car key, key moment gives me a little nudge and throws the bike key at my feet. So it just falls down. And yeah, of course, I can take it, hang it back and still take the car. But maybe it also would remind me of my actual goal, and I would decide for the bike instead. So we see that this is really designed with these ingredients from psychology. We have the reflective loop, and we have a coupling of the general goal of more physical activity with a concrete action and situation. It suggests cycling as an alternative to the car. And the choice then becomes more conscious, as I mentioned, an additional loop of reflection. So while throwing the bike key at my feet, key moment at least asks me, would you consider taking the bike? At the same time, it offers a lot of ways out. So this is to avoid reactants. You may have heard of this, another ingredient from psychology. So if we feel urged to do something that somebody wants us to move in a specific direction, we have the tendency to do the opposite. So if there's too much pressure, it might not work. So that's why key moment is very understanding. It has understanding for bad weather conditions. And of course, I also could trick the system. I could simply swap the two keys. The key moment wouldn't realize, but only I myself might feel a bit stupid about it, because in the end, I want to change. So another funny example is here, the chocolate machine. This is a training device for willpower. So interesting for all those who love chocolate, but still don't want to eat too much of it. So what this machine does is that about every hour, it spits out a chocolate ball, and then you have the opportunity to eat the chocolate or to resist and return it to the reservoir, which just is also in this machine. So you could see each ball as a training opportunity. And this design is again based on different ingredients from psychology. So one is ego depletion theory. This is a theory that assumes that willpower or self-control strengths can be trained like a muscle. So on the one hand, it is a limited resource. If you already have done a lot of straining things, self-control, the resource is finished, and you might not resist the chocolate any longer, but you also can train it. And with every successful act of self-control, this resource becomes stronger. So this is the parallel to muscle training or physical training. And then there's also a counter of successful resistance. So the chocolate balls put back into the reservoir. And this, of course, makes change visible and allows for the experience of self-efficacy. Based on the humanistic view of humanity, so instead of strict rules and prohibitions, it trusts the chocoholic to be considerate and self-responsible, like I can learn to say no. And in fact, in a field study, we tested this machine. 10 participants used this machine for 2 weeks. And we took different measures and also interview data. And what we found is an increase in self-control strength over time. And possibly enabled by the repeated experience of resistance, and also the counter as confirmation of own success, which is also reflected in participants' qualitative statements. So here are some examples, like one person who says the counter is an important confirmation of success. It feels good to see this. And some also talked about the machine like a training partner. And so this is very nice, because they then said, I didn't want to disappoint myself, but also I didn't want to disappoint the machine. So in this sense, it could be like an extra motivation. Yeah, so these were like just 2 concepts. There are many more called transformational products, because they support the transformation of people to become the person they wish to be. And what we see here, that it's very important to have a conception of the psychological mechanisms behind change. And as already mentioned in the introduction, I think another important aspect is that we should not forget the very nature of change. So in essence, change means doing something differently than before. And every time we do something new, so a behavior that is not learned or automated yet, this is really hard work for our brain. And even if we are totally motivated, it's still an effort. And so this is what I call bitter and sweet components of change. So we have here like a visualization of all the different aspects that could be relevant. So there's a sweet side, like dreaming about how it will be when the positive goal is reached, experiencing skill, possibilities, self-efficacy, autonomy, defining the goals and visions, and on the way through there also experience rewards in the form of positive emotions and encouraging feedback. So this is all the sweet side, which is very important, of course. I think if there was no positive goal and this vision wasn't present, it would be very hard to motivate people to change. So I think it's really something valuable that positive psychology emphasized to look on the goals or solutions, and not only on the problems and deficits. But still, we should keep in mind that also the bitter components are there, and we should somehow be prepared to deal with them. Because in the moment I commit to a goal and say there's something I want to reach, this direction is attractive for me, of course, there's also the risk of failure, so that it might not be so easy to reach that goal, or I might not manage it all, and then have to redefine my goal or find another similar goal. So that also the risk of failure, dissatisfaction, self-threat, and the confrontation with own deficits, which I call here the bitter components. If you don't like that term, you also may call it a challenge, or the challenging side, as I recently heard in a talk about resilience, a a challenge is something you could consider as a chance to experience something not boring. That's a connotation I like very much. So a chance for new experiences. Yeah, in essence, what I want to express with this term bitter, it's yeah, like in bittersweet chocolate, bitter lemon, it's not something bad. It may be a special taste in the beginning, but it will taste better and maybe also sweeter over time. So you will be rewarded definitely, but you need to acknowledge first that something needs to be done. And this is this, yeah, commitment to change, which we need in the beginning. Usually, I will show you some exceptions later. Yeah, so let's come to the next part of our interactive workshop. So think about bitter and sweet components in your personal change project. So what could be successes? What could be motivating, inspiring, encouraging, rewarding experiences? When you think about how it will be when you learn a new language, become more physically active, or lose weight, or become more relaxed, less stressed, which could be the positive moments and also on the way to there. Yeah, and then on the other hand, what could be challenging? What could be deficits you might experience, failures? What could be barriers or risks in this whole project? So just take a few moments to think about it, and then I would love to hear your thoughts.
For me, it would be that I feel less tired and more energized. So on the positive side. And on the negative side, so what could be challenging would probably be that I see all the tasks that have to be done, and deadlines also that basically make such me time impossible.
Yeah, I think it's a very good example because it reflects the really sometimes impossible opportunities to just maybe like make a plan and then just follow the steps, because if it's something like relaxation and you still think about the deadlines, it's really hard to manage. And so before, have you also thought about concrete indicators? So what would be indicators that you're on a good way or that you have reached your goal? Could you say something?
Yeah, basically my feelings. And also maybe that I see in my calendar that I have planned in or scheduled some time for that, and that I didn't do anything besides that in this concrete time.
Okay, that's very nice. So for you, it would be your feelings. So I would say subjective indicators of whether you've reached your goal. So if we think maybe later about a technology or product that could support or visualize progress, then maybe you would see that your feelings become more positive, more relaxed, and you also mentioned you hope you will feel less tired, more energetic. Very nice, thanks, Ilka. Anybody else who would share some bittersweet ideas about the personal change project? Maybe I think someone mentioned exercise, physical activity.
Yeah, in chat room, someone say lost some weight. Success lost 15 pounds in a month few years ago, but for
Okay.
challenge, cannot sustain and gain it back 20 pounds in a year.
Okay. So yeah, we already hear the bitter sides, I think, because if there's yeah, how you say, a backfire effect maybe, then of course it's demotivating. But I think that's a very good example also for the strategies we will discuss in a moment. And it also shows that to make this change long lasting, it's really important to couple it with a positive goal which is related to different senses. So maybe not only to see the numbers drop and it's the kilos you want to lose, but also maybe feeling differently, so a more healthy feeling, so that over time it's not so much counting anymore, but something you can infer from your body and your feelings. But I think we will see this in a minute.
I can
Olga,
also share
yeah.
About learning language. What is the measurement of success? It's probably the speed of choosing words. When you are able to construct sentences faster than in the beginning. It's the main measurement for me now. And the challenge, probably the biggest challenge as for any adult on this earth, is it's a time-consuming process. Learning language is a very time-consuming process. So somehow I need to incorporate this process in my daily life and to decide if I'm going to take that time from my personal life or from my professional life, what to sacrifice.
Yeah, so what I hear from this, it's also like connected to balancing different needs or different goals in life, and this could also sometimes be related to a bad conscience, because you feel if I give time to one goal, the other one might get too less, or the children. So coming back to what happens if you do not adequately consider the bitter components of change and foresee that there will be challenging moments. Many self-improvement programs may fail because of this, because people just wish for a magic receipt that just makes appear the result without the weight there. So just like being beamed to the top of Mount Everest. But you also can ask yourself, is this really what we want? I mean, if there was just like a magic receipt for any goal, we could not feel proud, we could not experience self-efficacy. So we actually can also be thankful for the conscious experience of effort and hopefully change. But of course, there needs to be the right dosage, and I will go into more details also in the keynote in the next session. So in short, the idea of change is that it needs attractors, positive reinforcement, the sweet, but also no blinders for the difficulties, the bitter. And I think that, in fact, the bitter could also be a vehicle of change. So like actively use this power of dissatisfaction, and strategies to change should actively consider this bittersweet character. And but of course, both must be in a good ratio. And now let's come to the interesting part, the strategies for positive change. And so let's think about how we could reach this. How could we consider the bittersweet character of change in interventions? How could we respect the very nature of change, but in a way that the bitter doesn't get too dominant, which could then undermine the change project as a whole. And I have brought 3 different starting points or strategies. So the first I called alternative connotation of the bitter. This is in parallel to typical reframing interventions in the context of positive psychology and solution-focused coaching. So instead of fighting against being wrong, change becomes more like an act of caring for oneself. So any aspect that is relevant in your personal change project would be focused or relabeled with an emphasis on the positive. So this is also what represents a form of what medical sociology calls demedicalization. So the process by which a behavior or condition that was once labeled as sick then becomes defined as more normal or more focused on the positive change. So often taking a medicine means being ill, which is a kind of self-threatening, and relabeling the medicine as energy pill can turn a bitter situation in a sweeter one. Or when you think about interventions, of course, it makes a difference whether an intervention is framed as anti-stress training or personal well-being training. So also marketing professionals use this a lot. I think if you look at the landscape of products you can buy, of course, people feel much better using a beauty serum instead of anti-wrinkle cream, or pure products instead of anti-allergy products, or fitness food instead of diet food. So while the first term reminds of being wrong, and which is self-threatening, the second emphasizes the possibilities and the positive aspects of this way. So this is one way how we could enhance the sweetness of positive interventions. The second strategy focuses on the experience of positive emotions in the very beginning of change. So this is also an aspect that many psychotherapeutic interventions emphasize, that it is really important to have this reward in the beginning and make the person notice every little change, every little tiny reward, and not allow that change remains unnoticed. And this is called early reactivity, so the conscious experience of self-efficacy. The confrontation with own success, which then might activate further resources and also acknowledge positive side effects. So in short, a solution focus instead of a problem focus, and see what works well already. And last but not least, this is one of my favorites, a third strategy, which could be actually to initiate change, success, without a prior clear intention. It's a bit challenging to implement, I guess, but just I'm sure if you think about your life, some examples like this would come to your mind. So for example, friends taking us on a hiking tour, which then turned out much longer than expected, but in effect gets us to over accomplish our aims. Or if you want to quit smoking, a small holiday resort where no cigarette machine is nearby, it will definitely affect your smoking behavior, and you might realize that a smoke-free day is possible. And normally, so the more conventional path of change is, of course, that you realize this discrepancy between ideal and real self, and then commit and try to change. But this always was failure, self-blame, fear, and negative thoughts, so which might suck energy that is better spent on the actual change. So in contrast to this conventional path, this strategy is risk-free, because the moment one becomes aware of the change is already done, and it has already been successful, which may be easier to commit to this change in hindsight. But of course, the aim here is not to nudge people into a direction they would not consider attractive. Instead, it's the idea of unintended success that is to create some positive surprise about oneself, and one might reach goals one has not considered as reachable before. Okay. I see that we are already running out of time due to my technical problems. Is it okay if we do like 5 minutes longer for this workshop, and then I can also see in the keynote that it doesn't take too long?
Hello, Professor Sarah. You just
Yeah.
can continue, and we will maybe adjust the time for the meeting discussion for the last part. Just
okay, great. This is wonderful.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Yeah. So again, we see we have these 3 strategies I suggested, and so now it would be again your turn to think about these strategies in your personal change project. So yeah, what could be alternative connotations of the bitter? What could support early success, or what could initiate unintended success? It's maybe tricky, maybe not all 3 strategies do fit well with your project, but yeah, would be great if you could just think about it and also share your ideas if there's anything that could work.
Maybe for my example, concerning the stress level and time for myself, that this exact time is framed as a time gain and not as a time loss in this way. And yeah, that I can somehow see that I managed to have more time for me, and that I also enjoyed it as well. So maybe just a questionnaire asking me how I feel, and I can see the results at the end of the week, for example. Yeah. That would be my
yeah, I think that's a good starting point. Do you also have an idea for unintended success?
Maybe concerning my sleep, I would say that I would probably sleep better then when I'm more relaxed, and maybe I can also track this and get items for this as well, and then see my results again, probably at the end of the month or week or so on.
Yeah, what I spontaneously thought of, maybe in parallel to what just happened here, for example, if your training device would at some point free you from the internet and you couldn't work any longer, and you would have like a forced pause, and it would say to you, well, Ilka, now just go for a walk for half an hour, notice the sun or whatever you like, and you would then realize that this is possible, and that you can, if you're forced to stop thinking about all the tasks and goals for some moments, maybe this could be something which could demonstrate that this is possible. Anybody else who has some ideas how these strategies could help?
Hi. Yes, yeah, I'd like to share just one point on this alternative connotation of the bitter. Okay. Thanks for your time. All of a sudden, I have 10 minutes to look at my current project. One thing I learned from what you just shared about reframing. Yeah. So take, for example, if my bitterness is I fail, but I can reframe it, I fail fast, then I try it again. So basically, I think as mentioned by one of the participants, it means I think I gain time. Instead of spend maybe 1 year on a project, maybe 1 month I fail. So basically I save 11 months.
Yeah.
So in a way, that may be my alternative consultation. By reframing my bitterness is I save time. Of course, I think I will not have sleepless night for the next 11 months. Now, these are the positive technology or positive psychologies we can reframe it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That's also a great example. First, this positive connotation of I saved time, and also this idea of fail fast. I think it's also related to this idea of early reactivity, so that you realize fast whether you're in a at least promising direction or not, and if not, you might consider an alternative path. Yeah, so that's great. Anybody else who would like to share? Okay, then we just move on and think about how you could realize these different strategies through technology. So I think for the first strategy, it's relatively easy because there are many ways how technology could connotate or introduce sweeter connotations of change in different ways. So for example, when thinking about smartphone apps or online interventions, you could just work with labels or stories that embed the intervention in a sensible, sweet way. So I think a very popular intervention from solution-focused coaching is, for example, this well-being treasure hunt, where the client turns into a successful treasure hunter, hunting for his own strengths and resources, and the coach assists this journey, but it's actually the client who's a treasure hunter. And so I think this is something you could very easily integrate, like in an interactive game where the user could take the role of a treasure seeker or adventurer on an exploration tour, and which is already a positive framing that could be around any goal, also like becoming less stressed, or also daily life duties. On a smaller level, you could also think that positive framing could inspire the names of, for example, weekly missions. When you think about nutrition apps that could invite the user to a fitness week instead of labeling the same thing as meat-free week, which would more emphasize the restrictions. And in general, all kinds of game-like interpretations of change offer a great opportunity to play with one's own abilities in the form of also non-committal test-wise change, which are playful and solution-focused coaching would say self-esteem neutral reflections, because it's just thinking about how it could be trying something without this serious commitment. This is the goal I want to reach now. Just trying it out. So for the second strategy, early experience of change, the foremost advantage of interactive technology is to create an frame for early experience of change through its omnipresence in daily life. So for example, smartphones are for many constant companions. You always have it with you, and unlike a human coach, which maybe sees clients once a week or every 2 weeks, the smartphone can accompany the client through the hurdles of daily life and reactivate the resources when needed. Because in classical face-to-face coaching, a common problem is that the client actually shows progress but does not recognize the already performed change to full extent. So here technology could support a continuous documentation and also appropriate expression of progress. So I think the very specific way that progress is documented can be crucial to its motivating power. So for example, instead of fixed numbers and metrics, like if you think about losing weight, the fixed kilos, or if you think about sports, the time you need for a particular distance, yeah, you could introduce more flexible currencies. So for example, an effort, the effort for time reduction from like 25 minutes and 30 seconds to 25 minutes and 5 seconds in a 5 kilometer run distance. It's much effort, and it's actually much, but if you just look at the numbers, it doesn't seem so much. And so if the app then says, oh, about you get 100 progress points for this, it's a more appropriate acknowledgement. Or also, if you think of losing weight, I think it's the first kilos may be easier than after this, because the curve naturally flattens, and so it's yeah, also more motivating if you would have some other currency in this. And so I think then occasional backflashes will become more bearable when it's set against the progress on other levels. So this would be, yeah, realizations for the second strategy. And for the first, the third, it's of course a bit tricky. What I thought of is that maybe apps could provide missions or tasks where the general mission is, yeah, combined with some hidden extra mission, like a healthy nutrition app could make meal suggestions each day, and then it, for example, could just skip fish or meat for 1 week without announcing this. And so only after the week has passed, the user hears congratulations on your first vegetarian week. So the user is aware of the fact that the app cares about healthy nutrition, but it is not aware that this includes also attempts of vegetarian living. And after having unintendedly succeeded in this, the user can then commit to a goal, such having a vegetarian day once a week, decide to become fully vegetarian, or also deliberately decide against that. But then there already has been this unintended experience. And altogether, I guess that this strategy of unintended success yeah, probably represents the most challenging one, also from an ethical perspective. Of course, it could be difficult to decide what kind of success actually creates positive surprise about oneself and corresponds to the user's personal ideas. But the essence is not to trick the user, but just to initiate an action before a too critical reflection happens. Yeah, so these are the ideas. So now again, I would love to hear if you could pick one of the strategies and think about how to implement it. So how could interactive technology realize alternative connotations of the bitter early success or unintended success? I know it's not easy, but maybe you have some ideas about it. No ideas yet? Then don't mind. Okay,
Hi.
great.
Hi, Shara.
Yeah.
I would like to share. Okay. Currently, I'm in Singapore. Okay.
Yeah, great.
Singapore, I think the Singapore Health Promotional Board, there's an app we call Healthy 365.
Mm-hmm.
So the app is basically, I think, is promoted. Basically, the government give away fee on some available a tracker. The tracker itself can, well, basically, I think if all the participants can input, let's say, the tracker can track how many minutes of exercise per day, in moderate exercise, how many walks that the one can achieve, and then of course how many calories they take. So the system basically will incentivize with Q points with reward points. So in a way, is early success could be actually on a daily basis. If I can walk 5,000 steps, I will get a reward points. So it's actually they can track it at the end of the day. And then if I can accumulate so many reward points, I can redeem voucher, I can shop using this voucher to shop in supermarket. So basically, I would say this could be a daily success. If I can manage to achieve, let's say 5,000, and I think if today I can accumulate 30 minutes of moderate exercise, then of course, if every day I will do it, I will achieve 150 minutes per week. I think what is advocated by the World Health Organization. So basically, I think these are the interactive technology, like the app, which basically I'm wearing now, that enable me to look at the early success. Of course, if alternative connotation of bitterness is, take for example, today is a rainy day, I cannot achieve my 5,000 walks. So basically, I remind myself tomorrow maybe I need to walk 10,000 steps, to compensate. So these are the things maybe I can, in my current context, I could like to share with you and the other participant. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I think it also highlights one really challenging aspect. So what is if it's not your fault that you cannot accomplish the goal? Like it's raining and it's just not manageable to go out and walk so much. So this is also important to find ways how to frame it that you're not too disappointed then and still stick to the goal and not stop the process because 1 week didn't work so well. Yeah, so thank you very much for sharing. And so this would also be the time now if you have any more questions or comments to discuss for the workshop.